Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Whatever your time zone, welcome. This is AI Talk, and I'm your host, Kevin Crane. Welcome to the show. Today, we'll be discussing the topic of accelerating organizational creativity and innovation with AI. As artificial intelligence continues to evolve, its role in fostering creativity and driving innovation has caught the attention of many of us in business and technology. We all know about the process automation aspects of AI and the generative capabilities of Gen AI, but many organizations today are cluing into the advantages that AI can unlock in terms of creativity and innovation. So in this session, we'll explore three key areas. First, we'll discuss how businesses can strategically invest in AI to drive innovation and uncover new opportunities. Then we'll look at how AI tools are transforming the way teams work together. And finally, we'll look at AI-driven innovation and how to calculate the ROI. So it should be another great discussion today on AI Talk. But before I introduce our guests, I want to say that we want to thank everyone for attending today, and that includes the folks that are joining us live on LinkedIn. Hello, and everyone joining us today on Zoom. So thank you so much for being with us. Now, before I introduce our guests, I want to say that we want to hear from you too. We'd like to encourage everyone attending today to participate. So please join in with your comments in the chat section. If you have a question along the way, just jump on in. I will be looking there and I will attempt to get some of your questions into the flow of the show. And we'll have a few minutes also at the end for your questions. All right, let's jump in with a great panel today, starting with Chandrasekaran, Christian Chandrasekaran, Associate Director, IT Architect at IQVIA. Christian, welcome aboard. Where are you calling in from today?
Hi there, Kevin. Yeah, I'm calling in from London, pretty local. And yes, thanks for having me on the show.
Christian, and very good. Thank you so much for being with us. Also joining us today is Jamie Graybert, President and co-founder of the Consultancy Group. Welcome aboard, Jamie. Where are you calling in from today?
Good morning, Kevin. I'm calling in from the San Francisco Bay Area.
Welcome aboard, Jamie. Thanks for being with us. Also today with us is Rakesh Sharma, Director of Cloud Apps Data and AI Solution Sales at Kyndryl. Rakesh, welcome aboard. Where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling in from beautiful sunny Miami, Florida. Thanks for having me here.
Wonderful. Now, Krishnan, Jamie, Rakesh, welcome aboard. It's so great to have you with us today. I'd like to start our discussion today by pointing our attention to an article published recently by Forbes titled Making AI Work, How to Balance Innovation with ROI. And the article explores how businesses can balance AI innovation with ROI by aligning AI initiatives with organizational goals. Now, this is a topic that we have covered on the show in the past and extensively on our sister show, Digital Transformation Talk. The article stresses the need for this alignment along with cross-functional collaboration to drive successful implementation and ensure that our projects address real business needs. My question to the panel today is, what did you think of the article? Krishnan, did we miss anything? Did the article miss anything important that we should consider?
No, actually, it's a good point. What they talk about, what organizational needs are, because everybody wants to jump on the AI train, and they sometimes they don't have the right reasons for it. They are doing it for being on the leading edge or being on the AI train. But organizational needs sort of takes priority on any technical implement. So if you want to implement AI in your organization, what are the needs that they have? Can AI actually fulfill them? That should be your first or the key point that we should be thinking about.
All right, very good. Now, Jamie, what are your thoughts on the article and what is your advice when it comes to balancing innovation with ROI?
I think one of the things I loved about the article, Kevin, is exactly what we've been talking about on this show for the last year. And that is kind of start small, understand your goals, start small, and grow from there, measure frequently. And so I think, uh, you know, it's a good article. And to your point, um, you know, I the biggest thing for me in this is understanding feedback and measuring is the measurement piece of it. And I think that's where you find ROI because
Mhm.
everybody tends to look at it as a dollars and cents, but it's not just dollars and cents. It's health and safety. It's the value or the ability to identify gaps. It's the ability to grow or find new markets. So I think there are so many pieces to this. And although we're roughly two years in, as Krishnan said, is, everybody's kind of starting to jump on the train and they don't really even understand what they're getting into, what their needs are, whether it's a large model or a small, more tailored model for your organization. So I like the idea, the concept this article had to kind of bring it back to that of, just like what we talked about, start small and expand from there once you start to really truly understand what your needs are and the abilities that your staff have to implement the cleanliness of your data. Is it clean? Is it good? Because your output is only going to be as good as your input.
Now, Rakesh, one of the aspects the article stresses is continuous evaluation and that companies should regularly assess their performance against their strategies. That's something that's often overlooked. Do you find that to be so as well in your work?
So correct, right? I think Krishna and Jamie rightfully pointed that again, this AI hype, everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon, right? You probably have noticed in last 1 year or so, every earnings report calls about AI. We are doing AI, and then as soon as they quote AI, the market cap of the company goes high, right? So every C-suite, every board that they're just trying to somehow weave AI into their strategy without really knowing what it is going to do for the business. So yeah, that is one reason, right? Second thing is, I like what Yuri has to say. The space is very fast evolving from, taking $100 million to build, a foundational model to a $6 million, foundational model, right? You want to look at AI, I mean, as any other technology things, you want to look at solving tactical problems, right? And then solving strategic problems, solving your short-term goals and then planning for your long-term goals. So yeah, I like what Yuri has to say. I mean, you want to evaluate, you want to measure and assess where you're headed, right? How it is impacting your business in short term and what impacts it would have, you know, say 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, what would you want your organization to become? So absolutely necessary, to continuously pivot with this fast evolving ecosystem of AI, Gen AI, and things like that.
Well, the article is from Forbes. It's called Making AI Work, How to Balance Innovation with ROI. There is a link here in the chat section. Everyone take a look. Let us know what you think about the article. Did it miss anything important that we should consider? What are your thoughts on the article and how do you balance innovation with ROI? It's all over there in the chat section now. All right, well, folks, let's move on to our main discussion points. We're here talking about accelerating organizational creativity and innovation with AI. Let's talk about focusing AI investments to drive innovation and unlock new opportunities. According to research, organizations spend about $235 billion they spent on AI in 2024, a figure that is expected to nearly triple, reaching over $630 billion by 2028. This is a substantial investment that underscores the critical role AI plays in driving innovation and uncovering new business opportunities. Krishnan, how can businesses strategically invest in AI to drive innovation and uncover new opportunities?
So my point, I mean, my discussion thinking has always been on three important things. So one is whether AI is helping us accelerate any product development. Another is whether are we getting any operational efficiency using AI in part of the flow, or do we have to doing it for catering for a specific need of a end user in our product? So that's where the whole drive comes from. And in terms of innovation, VR tool itself is very complicated, very complex. As you said, a lot of money is being going into it, but we don't know whether all that money has gone and given us an output or a product, or is it in a stage where we are still in an infancy, where we are trying to, understand what the tool is. Unlike cloud or unlike the older text that we were, this is little more complex. That too coming from a field of data science. I work with data which has a lot of personal information, which means it's very sensitive. I can't just jump onto the AI as just to in sake of innovation. We need to make the groundwork, and that groundwork will help us understand what sort of new things that we can do with the AI helping the existing process flow, not replacing them, because that is like the next fear that most people will run into, whether AI is going to replace the process flow, AI is going to change anything. No, it might actually enhance your output. It might enhance the efficiency of your output, or it could increase your time to market. So those things need to be thought about.
Those things need to be part of your investment strategy. We talk a lot about innovation, process improvement, innovation and processes, but when it comes to accelerating creativity, that seems a little harder to define. Krishnan, how do you define the use of AI and how, with respect to spurring creativity? And can you give us an example of how AI is used to actually boost creativity within the organization?
So one of the things that most of the organizations are now trying to do, and this is based on my experience with different roundtables, is giving the exposure of AI to the developers and the users within the organization, not taking it outside the boundary, first giving them access to it, and trying to understand where they are actually using it, whether they are using it for just day-to-day work, or is it they are trying to problem solve, and are they actually trying to completely, redo the process. And that's where your acceleration actually happens. Once the adoption rate increases, the way that they go into adopting these AI will be much faster, which means that a company who have introduced AI about a year ago would have actually gone further up, and their later part of the acceleration would be much faster compared to company which is just starting to adopt AI. And again, I'm talking with experience on both sides, that is companies who have got their skepticism with sharing their data with AI, and companies who are trying to and not worry about data but try to understand what they can actually optimize it within their organization.
Now, Jamie, you've been with us before where we've explored this idea of alignment. According to analyst firms like McKinsey, Bain, KPMG, and others, up to 70% of digital transformation initiatives fail. And one of the big reasons for that is this lack of alignment between tech goals and organizational goals. From your perspective, what strategies can organizations use to ensure that their AI investments align properly with their long-term goals in terms of the business and their long-term goals in terms of innovation and creativity?
I think number one, you have to get all of the stakeholders involved, or if you start in, one department, make sure there's a solid understanding there. But I think a lot of it, as you are moving it into or adopting and implementing into different areas of the business, one of the largest drivers has to be collaboration among the stakeholders. Because what you end up with is this department has this tool, this department has this tool, and they don't talk to each other. And so you're getting just this kind of hodgepodge of things pulled together. And so things are working against each other instead of working for each other. And a lot of that starts at the very top with understanding what the business objectives and goals are. And within each department, there are typically goals and objectives that ladder back up to that. And having those understandings, having those understanding what your goals are, you can set your KPIs and identify your metrics for each of these things.
Mm.
You have once those departments start collaborating or having an understanding and seeing, okay, there's overlap here and there's information here that we need to consider, then you pull in all the stakeholders. And I think there's a lot of times where people look at AI and they're like, oh, well, marketing is using that for personalization or to make them more efficient, and HR is using it to screen candidates, and you have different tools programmed into IoT that may help with predictive modeling on the manufacturing side, but none of those things are really talking to each other. So I think the biggest thing there is understanding the goals and helping to collaborate to achieve those goals, and making sure that your AI tools are doing the same.
Hmm.
That's the biggest thing that I see, because otherwise you're paying for a lot of expensive tools that focus in silos and you don't get a whole picture. Part of the feedback loop is having a complete set of information to be able to make decisions about. And so you need to have that. And I think strategically, that's what makes the most sense, is have everybody having an understanding, clear communication from the top down, and then understanding what your goals are, and then monitoring and measuring those things. Identifying and understanding that when you're trying to identify whether a tool is worth it or not, you're not going to know in 3 months. You're not going to know in 6 months, because those are the points where you're still even evaluating inputs. You're still evaluating, the outputs are coming out. And oftentimes in the beginning, they're not aligning because we're talking about models that learn as you go. And
Mm.
so when you're you know, utilizing these tools, you have to understand that it's not going to be something quick. So I think now that everyone is really starting to kind of adopt, or not everyone, but the majority of businesses are trying to adopt in some manner, you know, having those understandings, having those hard conversations of, okay, now what do we understand? Is it an ROI matter? Because some things aren't. Some things are an efficiency matter. Does that impact ROI? It
Mm.
can, but it can also help identify opportunity.
Well, the measurements are key. I'm wondering when it comes to innovation, uh, sometimes that's easy to measure. In a process, it's shorter, it's with less people, it's more complete.
Mhm.
When it comes to creativity, that's a little harder to measure. You mentioned KPIs, Jamie. What are some KPIs that we should consider in our strategies to help us measure these things?
I think it depends on the department. A lot of times it's just time. You know, are people able to be more productive because they're utilizing these tools? You know, in some departments, it's, well, we've increased revenue streams because we were able to identify new market opportunities. And a lot of that comes down to brainstorming, you know, brainstorming
Mhm.
with the AI tools, brainstorming, you know, among your stakeholders or your collaborative group among different departments. And you know, those are just kind of some things, you know, from an HR standpoint, are you getting quality candidates in, or is it more of a revolving door because it's weeding out candidates that may be successful? So there's a lot of different pieces. And so to understand where the value is, or where your efficiencies are, where you're making money or losing money on a tool, you have to understand the different departments and how it's being used.
Now, Rakesh, I mentioned that research is telling us that investment in AI will reach $630 billion by 2028. That may be low. I don't know. What strategies, what are some real world examples, Rakesh, from your world of how AI has been used to drive innovation in unexpected ways? And does it justify the substantial investment?
It definitely does, right? I think some of the problems what Krishnan was mentioning, that he works with personal information, he cannot simply, throw that data at AI, right? One of the leading use cases of this Gen AI is synthetic data creation, right? Where you're not necessarily exposing your customer's personal information or anybody's personal information for that matter to these models. You create this synthetic data, and that has helped do a lot of experimentation with your customer data to come out with different products, different segmentation, maybe different marketing strategies and whatnot. It has also helped, significantly in risk and fraud management. Risk and fraud management originally used to be using, say, rule-based engines, traditional AI models, which always, left loopholes for edge cases, right? Now with Gen AI, I think the Gen AI has capability to identify those loose cases, loose edge cases, and then block those fraudulent transactions, block those risky behaviors of from either the customer or business insiders and people like that, right? So in
And
terms
these,
of
this is real world ROI, if you will.
absolutely right. Now imagine you are able to reduce your marketing spend significantly and get customers where your CLV is increasing rapidly, right? Some of the strategic matrices, right? How is your CSAT trending? How is your NPS trending? How is your CLV trending, right? Now, those are not short-term goals, right? I mean, quarter to quarter, it may improve, but how is it trending over, say, 2 years, 3 years? And that's where this will make significant impact, right? You are able to hyper personalize. I mean, there's this new thing which is now possible. It has been spoken in theory like segment of one, right? That was never possible before. It took a lot of technology, it took a lot of processes to cater to that segment of one. With Gen AI, you can cater to that segment of one. I think one thing what Jamie was saying, that there are all of these tools and systems which work in silos. They're very expensive tools. They don't talk to each other. Right? I think one of the investment I would say that companies would need to do is make all of these systems stitch together, right? So they communicate. Business does not run in one department. Let's say that, right? Business runs across departments. Whatever happens has to happen across everything, right? The marketing gets the first touch, then the sales gets the touch, then your product is servicing the customer, your customer service is servicing the customer. All those systems need to talk, right? So that is an investment companies will have to make, and then have this AI stitch all those together, move all of those components in the flow, right? And that is what is making segment of one possible. Now that will improve, your CSATs and your, CLBs significantly higher.
Very
There are
good.
many
Well,
more.
we
Hmm?
yes, please. I'm sorry, I interrupted, Rakesh. Go ahead.
No, no. I was saying that there are many more, in healthcare, there are many more in, manufacturing, high tech industries where you need that precision, and that's possible today, versus
Mm.
using traditional methods. The key is to start small, prove the value so that you bring all the business stakeholders together.
Very good. We are here today with Rakesh Sharma from Kyndryl, Jamie Graybert from the consultancy group, and Krishnan Chandrasekaran from IQVIA. And we're here talking about making AI work and balancing innovation with ROI. If you have a question or a comment for our group today, please feel free, pop it into the chat feature today. I will be looking over there for your questions and comments. And the best question will win a very stylish and highly functional AI Talk coffee mug or anything you want to put in your mug. So jump on in with the discussion today. All right, well, folks, let's move on to our next discussion point today, and that is using AI tools to facilitate collaboration and innovation between teams. And this really piggybacks upon what Rakesh was just talking about, that business runs across departments. A report by McKinsey found that organizations that effectively harness AI across departments experience a 30% improvement in team productivity. And this highlights how AI tools can enhance collaboration and innovation in ways that really do move the needle. Krishnan, how can organizations leverage these tools to really spur creativity and innovation in ways that make a difference?
Very basic thing. So one of the first or the initial AI tool most of the people have now already adopted is using Teams AI to actually sort of transcript what we are speaking, which means that people are more thinking about the conversation and the action. In fact, there are AI tools which can actually read your meeting transcripts and start generating action points out of it. So which means that we are not spending an hour after our meeting trying to collate what we spoke about, what are the things we need to do. This is collaboration, this is talking between teams. And there is no more of who said what, that has already been captured. And recording meeting is different, but now recording transcripts, which means that all the conversations are captured nicely. The some points are summarized well, the action items are defined. So which means that we are working together and faster. And this is an innovative thing. We are not expecting the managers or the program managers to sit down and do this in a day-to-day job, which is exceptionally new. And this can be only done by AI tools. And this is very well adopted. This is very well adopted everywhere. It's not just in like smaller or bigger organizations. This is a very common tool that's been used across. And I find that we are using it extensively. We are even in fact gone a step ahead, where we are trying to create tasks out of the AI scripted summary. So which means that we can just go on and even issue task or issue action items, which means that everything is done at the end of the meeting. Everybody's going back to work rather than spending an hour trying to understand what needs to be done.
All right, now,
I
Jamie,
think
we have a comment coming in from Lisa here. Lisa, thank you so much for your comment today. And Jamie, this seems to be up your alley. I thought perhaps you might address this. And Lisa says, agreed. Prototyping will allow stakeholders to measure the value quickly. As a result, Agile is the way to go. Jamie, do you agree that Agile is the way to go?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we're all about, right? Is how quickly can we get work done, quickly, efficiently, and correctly can we get work done? And so one of the things that AI does for us is it allows for continuous improvement. And so in doing that, it is, it's about testing, creating what you need, or working with the right stakeholders to create what you need. Again, back to Rakesh said is, that we need to have models that do all speak. We need to have a way or find a way to connect all the things. And that's why you need people like these two gentlemen in IT that make all of these tools talk to each other or do it, create ways to make that happen and to make the tools speak together, but also help improve the process, improve how the collaboration happens internally as well. Because when you have good tools and you have the right data, you're much more efficient just in general. So I do agree with Lisa's point. And again, we're talking a lot about creativity, which is a piece of it, right? Because the more time you have for repetitive, that you're not doing repetitive tasks because AI is doing them for you, or AI is identifying gaps in the supply chain or gaps in the process, or heading off potential problems through predictive modeling. Though, since you have those capabilities now, it does itself to have more time for continuous improvement to help identify where, not only can the tools help identify where the gaps or where there's opportunities for improvement, but can also give people the time and space to create new ways. And I think that's important.
Now, Rakesh, we're talking about tools that can enhance cross-functional collaboration and creativity within an organization. We've been talking about tools like Agile and others. From your perspective, what are some of the best practices for integrating AI-powered creativity tools into the organization without stifling human ingenuity?
Oh, I think what Christian was saying, the Copilot thing, right, is working great. In addition to that, there are code whisperer tools now, which help improve developer productivity. You don't have to now continue to write mundane code. A bunch of that code comes, right from some of those tools. In addition to that, when you're talking about organizational communication, departmental communication, creativity, and such, now you can have these knowledge bases. We have had them for all these years, right? They were great when they worked, right? But now you could have these knowledge bases where different departments can ask questions. They can very quickly dive deeper into the processes of their, upstream or downstream departments, right? Which is impacting them as such. And now they can understand why that department behaves in a way, right? What are their motivations? And then they can align much better, right? Once you understand what your other party needs and wants, and once you start collaborating with them, I think it improves collaboration. In addition to that, you have tools which are helping you to research the things which used to take hours and hours. You can get that report out of one of these tools in few minutes. You get all these research, you get all of these. So when you're trying to innovate, say you're trying to innovate, what kind of new features or products, you can very quickly run some simulations using these tools, right? Very quickly run research and customer behavior, and then what would happen, you can run these simulations. And
So describe
you
that
can run those
simulation a little.
processes, what your business process is, what change you are looking. Yeah, you're talking about simulation.
Yeah, describe that.
So imagine that I have a business process. Say a customer wants to wire money from their account in, say, US to an account, somebody's account in UK, right? They initiate the process. It goes through multiple departments. It goes through risk and fraud compliance. It goes to, OFAC. It goes to the BSA things, right? It goes through all of these groups which checks all of that, and then the money gets sent on, say, maybe Swift line to have the transfer done. Once it reaches, the other bank does its own things, right? Now, say I want to reduce the cost of this wire for my customers. I'm the banker, right? I evaluate the process. I I measure all the matrices, what happens in that whole money transfer. Now I want to run simulations. I can have, these Gen AI models run different permutation and combination of these models, what can give me the optimum outcome, right? Without really changing these processes, without really, experimenting with them, right? In real world, I can do that in in my own research world, I can have multiple permutations produced by this GenAI, right, model. From there, I'm looking at what actually will work, right? And then test that model. So without disrupting my current business, I can re-engineer my business processes using some of these models. And those are the simulations I'm talking about. Because if you are talking about experimenting in one department, it's easier. But when you're talking about experimenting across multiple, change is hard, right? Organizational change is hard. It takes a lot of time. You don't want to embark on a journey without knowing that it'll work or not. Right? Now, AI gives you that power to run those simulations, to run, precise calculations, what kind of outcome you can get, right? With a great amount of accuracy.
All right,
I
very
think,
good. Well,
Kevin,
please go
may I?
ahead, Jamie. Please jump in, folks. Yeah.
So one of the things I think that requires too is having an understanding or having more kind of a more experienced staff, a more seasoned staff. And what we're seeing a lot of is because younger people tend to adopt things a little faster. We're seeing a lot of younger people implementing and using Gen AI that maybe don't understand the processes or don't understand, have the experience to or have had to problem solve in some critical situations. And so I think that's another piece of it is as we're training these models, back to Rakesh's point, we need to make sure that the output does make sense based on human. And so there is not only is there collaboration among departments, but there also has to be, or among the tools, but there also has to be a collaboration between AI and the humans that are using it, because you have to make sure that the outputs, to Rakesh's point, it's great for testing, great for modeling, for what if scenarios or could I scenarios. But you ultimately have to make sure that the outputs that you're getting before you even start an implementation, you really have to make sure
Mm.
that that makes sense based on experience. That, I mean, I don't know, you gentlemen may disagree, but
Yeah, no, but I agree. I agree, Jamie. In fact, I was going to bring up one example based on Rakesh's point about understanding what the other team is doing. So, from coming from a data science background, there are different structures of data that goes through. So it has in warehousing, and then it gets processed, and then it gets reported, and it gets to the end user. But the gentleman on the team that works in part of the BI processing doesn't understand how the data sits in the data warehousing. So, and rightly pointing out what you just now said, Jamie, one of the gentlemen who I know is a good friend of mine. He is an early adopter of AI, and he went in and he prepared an AI language model which helps people to understand what they have in the data. But he did it in the perspective of somebody who's working in the BI. He didn't understand what the actual data was. As you say, the context is very important. You need to understand the use case rather than, there are language models which can definitely help us simulate the whole process or understand, ask questions about it, make us easy rather than me asking a question to somebody from the data side and waiting for 2 days for the
Mm.
response. The AI actually helps us get to it. But are we asking the right set of questions? Is that what the gentleman wants, or is that what the AI will answer? So all those questions needs to be assessed. And I feel, I mean, it's just my opinion. Again, I'm happy to be challenged. I feel like this is going to be a more a feedback process. If people jump on such experiments and they start to implement, and when they did so, it was very useful. We didn't have to do from scratch. Yes, there were a lot of feedbacks from the other people who are using it, as Jamie pointed out. It might not be the use case that was meant to be happening, but it was useful. It was not a complete waste of time. It was something that they used to understand the process. They began with something else, but based on feedback, they had to keep updating. And it goes back to your point, Kevin. It's about keep measuring yourself whether the output that you generated is actually bringing value. It could be a good output. It could be very close to good output, but only based on feedback and repetitive assessment. It tells you whether it's achieving what you want, and that needs to be something that we need to update. And I feel like I know we have been in the AI train for a year, almost 2 years, but I still feel like we are in the infancy. I'm not crossing it off saying that we are all mature enough, or organizations are mature enough, even bigger ones are mature enough
Mm.
to handle it.
All
One thing
right,
I'll
folks, we are
add
getting some.
to
Oh, please go ahead.
one
I'm
thing.
sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, one thing I'll add to what Krishnan was talking about, this tool which does, tell you about data. You can ask questions about data, what you have and what you don't. I think one example which I would tell you is that marketing I'll just take example of marketing and sales, right? I think that's the easiest thing to explain. Marketing publishes their dashboard. This is our CAC is looking like, this is our CTC, all those things. This is our CTR. Sales team doesn't understand what those matrices are. They can go look at the dashboard, doesn't mean a thing, right? They can even ask question, hey, CTR is improving. What does that even mean, right? Now, when I was talking about departmental stitching, now sales team can actually look at marketing dashboard. Marketing is showing everything green, everything on up and up, right? What does it mean to me, for example, as a salesperson, right? I can now contextualize my question and AI can contextualize the answer for me. Hey, CTR is improving, which means NPS is improving, our brand value is improving. That means the selling will be easier and faster, right? Which means if marketing CTR has say improved by 10%, I should see a significant improvement of at least 10% in my sales efforts. If not, I'm not improving, right? Originally, earlier, marketing showed 10% growth, sales showed 5% growth, and sales is happy. Hey, 5% up, right? I'm doing good. Are you? Right? Because your input is improved, but your output has not improved by that much, right? Or vice versa. When marketing only improved, say CTR, and that's not the greatest metrics, but say let's just assume, for example, that metric. If sales is improving, say more than that, did marketing actually improve? So sales did improve more. So I think, and to be able to answer questions from other groups, data points, their matrices, their KPIs, and things like that, to what should happen in my own group and my own department, right? How should I be performing in light of all of those things happening in those other groups is very crucial. That's a really important tool, Christian, which you mentioned. I think that's going to be very, very helpful for organizations.
It's a data cataloging tool which uses the smartness of understanding what the data is, but to explain it to somebody who's actually working with the data and reporting it to the end client, they need to understand data. They can't just say that I'm somebody who's only going to make a KPI for the end user and get away with it. As you said, if they don't understand what the 10% means, they could be just showing a KPI which could go, because it's 50%, which means it's more than half. It's a good number. No, it isn't. Those KPIs meant to be probably on average be on 85%, which means they're actually underperforming. How do you actually know that? The person who is working on the reporting side, may think that it's fine. It's not a bad number. It's not something that I need to be gravely in danger of. But the standards vary. And absolutely lovely point, Rakesh. Yeah, that's true.
All right, very good. We are here with Christian and Jamie and Rakesh. We're talking about ROI in terms of AI and creativity and innovation. Rakesh, we have a comment here from Cindy that is saying, thanks, Rakesh. That wire transfer simulation example is a helpful example of how to use AI for efficiency to save time and cost. So thank you for that, Rakesh.
Thank you for that comment.
Bill has got a comment here for us. The panel said earlier that earlier investments in AI are motivated by both tactical and strategic implementations. Tactical deployments are typically easier to define in terms of ROI, but are often harder to quantify. Would it help management and budgetary people if we looked at our results in terms of capital performance? In other words, break down the costs in terms of dollars per month and compare that to measurable results of the tactical deployment. Might that not provide capitalization justification for the strategic or soft return efforts? Anyone have a comment for Bill on that?
Yeah, sure. I did talk about the tactical and strategic goals of any organization, right? And when I say tactical, I mean by this quarter, next quarter, right? And it's easy to quantify that. Every company measures those KPIs very, very, on a tight grip. What is my CAC looking like? And CAC is customer acquisition cost, right? Or how is my revenue performing? How is my profit performing? If you could add automation, if you could add some, say, hyper-personalization, your customer acquisition cost is reducing. Yeah, you see your profit ramping up. You can very quickly justify that, right? I hear his comment about the strategic. So yeah, when you look at strategic goals of the company, some of them are soft goals, right? Improve your net promoter score, yes, you can measure that. That number will give you, improvement. It might increase from 50 to 60 to 70. How do you translate that in dollar figure, right? That's generally a goal. It's a more of a brand building thing. It impacts your business several years down the line. You need to find a way to tie some of your qualitative matrices like Net Promoter Score or CSAT into what it does for your business. Go back in history what it was and how change in that has improved your business outlook, right? But also, I mean, there are other hard goals, right? I mean, am I getting market share? Now, that's a larger goal. Am I improving? So some of these initiatives, and I go back to customer. Every business is made up of customers. If you cannot keep your customers happy, you don't have a business. So look at your customer journey, your customer's experience with the organization. That is where you'll find your tactical goals, because that's where you reduce the cost. That's where you reduce the cost of acquiring the customer. That's where you reduce the cost of servicing the customer, and you can sell more, so your revenue is increasing. But in the long term, if you can optimize that customer journey, make more delightful experiences, that increases your Net Promoter Score or experience score, right? Are your customers becoming your advocates? That will influence. If you increase your delight score of your customers, that will automatically reduce some of the costs involved in servicing the customer. That will automatically improve the cost of acquiring the customer and retaining the customer, right? So you improve your top line, bottom line, all of that with these long-term measurements. So those tacticals will make way for the strategic goals.
All right, very good. We are here today with Christian Chandrasekaran, Associate Director of IT Architect at IQVIA, Jamie Grabert, co-founder of the consultancy group, and Rakesh Sharma, Director, Cloud Apps, Data and IT Solution Sales for Kyndryl. Gentlemen and Jamie, we have had a wonderful session today. We have reached the action item round of the program. I'm wondering if each of you has a quick action item for our viewers to take advantage of the ideas and advice today. Christian, do you have a action item for us today?
Main is identifying a key area that you feel like AI needs to be integrated. I think that's where your innovation and your collaboration and all your ROI, everything can come, because you cannot just, as I said, you cannot just jump on the train and try to implement an AI output. You need to understand what are all the areas that you have that the customer would be benefiting, or your stakeholders would be benefiting, or your end user would be benefiting, and try to understand if we integrate AI, and as Rakesh pointed out very nicely, if we integrate AI, does it actually help in any way? And some of them could be soft and hard. And I love the terminology, Rakesh. I was just nodding along as you said. The point is, because some of them could not be brought to numbers. It could be just a direct satisfaction of customer. That means more people are not returning to you with complaints. More people are working on resolving everything on their own. The customer service team is not working around the clock. Their SLAs are down. So those kind of things. So one of the main action item I would say is, one, try to identify the key areas that you are having issues and whether AI can actually help you out in those areas. That will be my action point for anybody who wants to, use this particular topic to help them.
That is Christian Chandrasekaran from IQVIA. Christian, thank you so much for being with us today. Jamie, do you have an action item for us?
Yeah, think about the feedback loop, right? Think about, make sure that, make sure that it includes all of the tools, all of the right data points, get collaboration on the metrics that you want to measure. And then, just make sure that the quantifiable data and the qualitative data that you're getting makes sense. And if not, have the hard conversations and be prepared to make changes.
That is Jamie Grabert with the consultancy group. Jamie, thank you so much for being with us today. Rakesh,
Thanks
do
for
you have
having
an
me.
action item for us?
So I would leave you guys with this. Go and set up AI Center of Excellence, right? Which is maybe a learning center for everybody in the organization. What that does is that helps the business stakeholders learn the nuances, what AI can do, right? That will spur the innovation, that will spur creativity. It also is a forum where different groups can come together, learn from each other, right? And I think Jamie was saying that technical people know technology much more, business people know the process. I think bringing those two together uh, is going to bring you fruitful outcomes, right? So set that up.
All right, that is Rakesh Sharma with Kyndryl. Thank you so much, Rakesh, Jamie, Krishnan. It has been a great panel today. Thank you so much for your discussion, and your perspectives and advice were spot on. Thank you so much. I hope that we get a chance to talk again too. Uh, and thank everyone for joining us today. Lisa and Bill, you have won the highly functional and highly sought after AI Talk mug, so stand by for more on that. Everyone, thank you for joining us today. Join us again next time on February 25th with another great panel of guests, where we'll be discussing the topic of getting the best value from Gen AI. That should be another great discussion. And in the meantime, if you'd like to find me, you can do so on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect there. Check me out. I'm Kevin Crane. And you can check out my weekly audio podcast, the Digital Transformation Podcast. But for now, that'll do it for this episode of AI Talk. And until next time, I'm Kevin Crane. Thanks for watching.